Hello, hello, Jordan Chariton live, Status Coup. It is Monday, March 11th, right here in the United Corporations of America. I hope everyone is having a lovely day in these trying times. I am wearing a hat because I thought it would be a good idea to cut my own hair over the weekend. And let's just say what's underneath doesn't look so good. So I have to go get that fixed by somebody who knows what they're doing. Let's see. Let me know what you think. Military style. Yeah, a little uneven here. Anyway, so till I get it fixed, I'll be wearing a hat. But a lot going on. I've been very, very busy. I spent 6 hours at the animal hospital over the weekend with my dear dog, Millie. Then I went to the vet again today. A lot of diarrhea, a lot of vomiting, dehydration, and as I'm sure many of you know, quite the high bill for the veterinary care. But we have to do what we have to do for our loved ones, including our canine friends. So I've been, who fucked up your head? I fucked up my head. I thought I would. So here's what happened. I started trimming the beard, this and that. And then I said, all right, let me kind of trim a little bit around here. And then when I tried to trim here, it was like patchy and it was like a couple patches. So then I'm like, all right, I'm just going to shave the whole thing. And then I shave up and I'm shaving all the way up. And as you could see, fuck the whole thing up. So I digress. But today, I want to address what next to the Flint water cover-up, next to the Flint water cover-up, might be the biggest government cover-up happening right now in the United Corporations of America that very few people know about, that the mainstream media could care less about, or could care less about. Welcome, new Status Coup member Nadia just signed up. Thank you, Nadia. Hopefully, once we tell you more about this story, more people will sign up. And frankly, whether this is where you live or not, I hope in watching this news, I hope you realize what we're about to talk about can and might happen to any of you, because no one is safe in America. If the scandal happening right now in East Palestine, Ohio, and the surrounding parts, talking Pennsylvania, other parts of Ohio, hell, Lewis and I got emails as far as New Hampshire and Canada from people who were getting remnants of that chemical plume coming down. If what happened in East Palestine and the crimes that Norfolk Southern, the multi-billion-dollar railroad company, perpetrated against the people, if this is allowed to stand, then nobody is safe here. There was a major, and when I say major, this is not for clicks. This is not a dramatization. There was a major news development last week that I believe provided evidence of criminal conduct by Norfolk Southern, the railroad company that nuked East Palestine, Ohio. And I hate just leaving it at East Palestine, Ohio, because they didn't just nuke East Palestine, Ohio. That plume of chemicals went everywhere. It went west to other parts of Ohio. It went east to Pennsylvania. It went north. We don't really know how far that plume went. And we don't really know how many people got sick in the short term and how many people are going to get sick in the long term. Okay? It wasn't just vinyl chloride. It was dioxins, which are very dangerous toxic chemicals, and a lot of other byproducts. Now, we have been reporting, and hats off to Louis DeAngelis, who has done God's work for Status Coup. He was on the ground in East Palestine 5 times over the last year, thanks to you, Status Coup viewers, particularly those who pay for membership. And we broke a lot of this news that was just revealed again in the hearing last week. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, had a hearing last week. We broke a lot of this 6 months ago. But now, for the first time, the NTSB is confirming to United States senators that Norfolk Southern literally, intentionally, and unnecessarily detonated a chemical bomb. Remember Condoleezza Rice back in the day, the mushroom cloud? Remember weapons of mass destruction? Remember all the fear and hysteria over bioweapons? Well, Norfolk Southern detonated a goddamn bioweapon over flyover country right here. It was confirmed last week, and not one U.S. politician has called for a criminal investigation. And I reached out to several of them today, which we're about to get into. Now, let's start, and keep those super chats coming because we're going to get to them. Let's start. There was a hearing last week. This hearing was not about East Palestine. It was just a National Transportation Board chair, Jennifer Homendy, I believe is her name. She was a speaker, and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance brought up the East Palestine derailment. We have several clips, and if you have missed this, I'm telling you, this is one of the biggest scandals I've seen, and I've seen a lot of corrupt shit, and no one is talking about this. Colin, let's play the first clip.
February 3rd, 2023 derailment of the train. Is it true that Norfolk Southern's contractors monitored temperatures on one of the chemical tank cars from the afternoon of February 5th into the afternoon of February 6th, which is when the controlled burn happened, and communicated their initial readings to Oxy Vinyls, the shippers in charge of the vinyl chloride cars?
That's accurate, Senator.
Is it true that these readings indicated an initial temperature of 135 degrees Fahrenheit at 4 p.m. on February 5th, which eventually declined to 126 degrees Fahrenheit at 9:30 a.m. on February 6th, at which point it stabilized?
That's correct, Senator. It was stabilized well before the vent and burn, many hours before.
So declining temperatures, you would think, and stabilized temperatures are consistent not with something that needs to be exploded, but with something that can be dealt with in a slightly less catastrophic way. At least that's my read on it. But is it true that the chemical shipper Oxy Vinyls concluded that the reported and stabilized tank car temperatures were too low for a runaway chemical reaction, meaning the sort of thing that would lead to an uncontrolled explosion?
That's correct. They had testified that polymerization was not occurring. In order for polymerization to occur, which was the Norfolk Southern and their contractors' justification for the vent and burn, you would have to have rapidly increasing temperatures and some sort of infusion of oxygen, neither of which occurred.
Right. And just to be clear, you would need both of those things. It's not an either or. You need both of them to precipitate polymerization, which would lead to an uncontrolled situation.
So let me break that down if you are completely new to this story, because you might not know. On February 3rd, 2023, so well over a year ago now, a Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine. Now, we could get into a lot of the reasons for that. There's been a lot of reporting on deregulation of railroads, the fact that these railroad companies, including Norfolk Southern, have brake systems.
February 3rd.
Have brake systems on that are as old as the Civil War. The fact that Norfolk Southern and other railroad companies are spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year to lobby against more regulation, to lobby against having to have more crew on the trains, more staff on the train, basically lobby against safety precautions. There's been a lot of reporting on that. But the truth is, the actual derailment itself, and smash that like button, share this live stream, 300 people watching, got to get a lot more out there. The actual derailment itself is not what poisoned parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and God knows where else. The actual derailment itself, which is dangerous, obviously, and does pose health risks, did not itself release the toxins that were released, all of the toxins. The train derailed February 3rd. That was a Friday. So then you have Saturday, February 4th, Sunday, February 5th, and when they did the controlled burn, which is a bullshit term, it wasn't controlled. It was an uncontrolled chemical nuking of this small town. They did that the afternoon of February 6th. What the NTSB chair just confirmed was at 9:30 a.m. on February 6th, so the morning that the morning of the detonation, right? They detonated the cars, what they call technically a vent and burn, which detonated 5 train cars of vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride exposure is linked to lung cancer. It's brain cancer, leukemia, other forms of cancer. Okay? Very, very toxic. When at 9:30 a.m., the car was cooling down to a temperature of 126 degrees. A temperature of 126 degrees, the chemicals at that temperature, that is nowhere near the temperatures you would need for an uncontrolled explosion, or what they call polymerization. The temperatures in that main car that they were concerned about were going down. They were cooling. Also, by the way, so you know, because this has been reported, Norfolk Southern wanted to do the detonation that morning during this time. They were told no because kids were still there in school. Norfolk Southern didn't care about, oh, the kids are in school. We don't want to, blow up 5 cars of toxic cancerous chemicals. Hey, we don't want to wait for the kids to, go home and get out of Dodge Way, because the schools were near the railroad tracks. So Norfolk Southern wanted to do this when the kids were in the sacrifice zone. That's the sociopaths that are buying off our government. Okay? So somebody put their foot down and said, no, you cannot do it in the morning. Wait till the afternoon. But what he just told you, what Vance just told you, and what the NTSB chair confirmed was the temperatures were going down. There was no scientific or chemical reason to detonate these cars. Let's play the next clip.
So is it true that Norfolk Southern's contractors testified to the NTSB that they were not certain a chemical reaction was occurring in the derailed vinyl chloride tank car?
They testified to that, yes, sir.
Is it correct that the chemical shippers testified that there was no free radical agent or sufficient heat trajectory to justify Norfolk Southern contractors' assessment that a chemical reaction was occurring?
That's correct.
So from this assessment, is it your understanding that Norfolk Southern's contractors lacked scientific basis to support their conclusion that polymerization was occurring in the derailed VCM tank cars?
Yes. In fact, they were informed by Oxy Vinyls of the information that should have been taken by the contractors in their decision making. But yes, they did not have that. They lacked the scientific background to address that.
So let me just go to sort of one final question here. We combine all these facts together. Your reporting thus far concludes that Norfolk Southern's contractors' recommendation to conduct a controlled burn lacked sufficient scientific basis, disregarded available temperature data, and contradicted expert feedback from the shipping firm on site. Now, this was all told to the decision makers on the ground that they had to make a decision in less than 13 minutes to blow up all 5 of these toxic chemical cars without any other voices being included to offer a contrary opinion. Is that right?
That's correct.
Colin, come on for a second. Now, we've been around the block here, right? This is not like new information. We've known about this since June of last year. Why? Because the owner of the chemical company, Oxy Vinyls, they own the vinyl chloride that was detonated. He testified to this, and he said they told Norfolk Southern 3 times repeatedly that there was no emergency or risk of an uncontrolled explosion. So I don't really know why Senator Vance is acting like this is new information when this has been out. He didn't put it in a diary. The owner of the chemicals that were exploded testified at an NTSB hearing that we repeatedly told Norfolk Southern 3 times. Wait a minute. We have that, don't we? We have that clip?
Yep.
Let's play it.
We made it clear, based on our expertise of the chemical properties of our product, that stabilized VCM would be unlikely to spontaneously polymerize. And on Sunday morning, February 5th, we further reinforced our view that polymerization was not occurring during a call with Norfolk Southern representatives. On Sunday evening, Steve met with Norfolk Southern's emergency response contractors and, for the 3rd time, stated Oxy Vinyls' view that polymerization of VCM was not occurring.
And just to be clear, that's when it was officially on the record. This was already, if not fully confirmed, but pretty much theorized, and people realized it early on that something like this happened, like that February that the derailment happened. But if you want to talk just officially, then yeah, that's June at the latest.
And he said that 3 times. So they told Norfolk Southern. not like the janitor. We're talking the owners of the chemical company. I don't have a lot of good things to say about chemical companies because they're usually fucking criminals themselves. But in this case, they told them on Saturday, yeah, the temperatures are cooling. They told them on Sunday, yeah, the temperatures are cooling. There's no emergency risk here of an uncontrolled explosion, threatening the lives of the, 3,000 or 4,000 people that live in the community and surrounding parts of Pennsylvania. Then they told them again Sunday night. Then they told them Sunday morning. That's not even the worst part. That's not even the worst part, that Norfolk Southern disregarded the chemical experts that know how their chemicals, what temperatures the chemicals would react in an uncontrolled way. That's not even the worst part. Smash the like button. We got 500 people watching. We got to get this out to more people, because let me tell you, if Norfolk Southern gets away with this, which at the moment they are, and I'm about to show you why they're getting away with it, this could happen to any of you. Maybe it won't be a railroad explosion. Maybe it will be a nuclear plant. Maybe it will be a uranium mine. Maybe it will be a coal mine. We're about to go to West Virginia for a story on a coal mine poisoning water. Maybe it will be fracking, whatever it is. If corporations could just get away with intentionally, unnecessarily nuking your town, who the fuck is going to stop corporate America from doing it to you next? Go ask the Native Americans. They've been a sacrifice zone for the last 300-400 years. Go ask the poor black communities, the poor Hispanic communities, and now the poor white communities. Let's play the next clip.
This is an extraordinary finding. We were told effectively that there were two bad options: the uncontrolled burn, the controlled burn, or the uncontrolled explosion. And it seems, based on the data that we have, that there was not a ton of reason to do the uncontrolled burn. And that, of course, is what spread toxic chemicals all over this community and the surrounding region. It's really an extraordinary finding. It goes to highlight the importance of your work. But I also have to note that residents on the ground talk about the fact that immediately after the uncontrolled burn, they moved the tank cars and train traffic was moving through their town and moving through their community.
Well, Senator Vance, I would go a little further when you say not a ton of reason. How about we amend that? Not one fucking single fucking reason. Excuse my French. I hope my father's not watching. He does not like my crassness. There wasn't one iota of a reason. I did not do well in chemistry. But you would think, I don't know, government officials, who are you going to listen to? The railroad company with millions of dollars of product, or the chemical car company? Who are you going to ask for guidance on, are these cars at imminent risk of exploding? Who are you going to ask? Now, when he says, not a ton of reason to do a controlled burn, there was no reason. When he says they disregarded available data, it's worse than just disregarded available data. We're going to find out they hid. Norfolk Southern hid available data and available expert guidance from the government officials that had to approve this. If that is not a crime, then why bother with the theatrics of having a criminal justice system? Let's play the final clip.
I won't ask you to speak to motivations here, but when you have an unnecessary, uncontrolled burn that poisoned a lot of people, that then led to rapid transit of train traffic, a lot of people, including me, are wondering, did they do this not because it was necessary, but because it allowed them to move traffic and freight more quickly? And if so, that is an extraordinary thing that I think requires a lot of further work from this committee and from others. But we will stop there because I see my time is up. Thank you, Chair Hamady.
May I add something to that?
Please.
Senator, it's even, I would say the factual information in our docket shows that Oxy Vinyls was on scene and providing information to Norfolk Southern and their contractors on the 4th, 5th, and 6th. They informed them that polymerization, they believed polymerization was not occurring and there was no justification to do a vent and burn. Rightfully, Norfolk Southern's contractors said, ruled out hot tapping and transloading because it would have been a potential safety issue for their employees. But there was another option. Let it cool down. It was cooling down. We know for a fact that when that pressure relief device went off, that it had to have been above 185 degrees. Later, much later, over the course of 22 hours, that tank car was cooling, not to mention the other 4 tank cars that were only between 64 and 69 degrees. So OxyVinyls was on scene providing information to Norfolk Southern's contractor, who was in the room when the decision was made and when advice was given to the governor of Ohio, to the incident commander. They were not given full information because no one was told OxyVinyl was on scene. They were left out of the room. The incident commander didn't even know they existed. Neither did the governor. So they were provided incomplete information to make a decision.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Vance.
Oh, your mic.
My line of questioning, I just want to be clear here, is not a criticism of the incident commander or of the governor. I think it's a criticism of the people on the ground who provided inadequate information. And provided inadequate information, I think, to the great detriment of the community on the ground. This is extraordinary work by your team, but this is a really, really troubling set of circumstances. This town very well may have been poisoned to facilitate the rapid movement of freight, or at the very least, it was poisoned for reasons that we can't identify. That should really concern every single person on this committee.
Well then, ding, 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 ding. You're finally getting it, J.D. Vance. Now, what the hell are you going to do about it? We have a lot to go through here because that was a long clip. First of all, I left this out from the previous clip. Norfolk Southern, what J.D. Vance said and what the NTSB chair said, that East Palestine residents pointed out that almost immediately after doing the controlled burn, which was not a controlled burn, it was a fucking uncontrolled chemical nuking of a small town, basically sacrificing the residents. They not only started moving the tracks again, Norfolk Southern was caught burying contaminated soil right under the tracks. They were caught burying contaminated soil with God knows what level of toxin in it right under the tracks, which is right over the groundwater. Only because residents were kicking and screaming about it did Norfolk Southern finally have to acknowledge, yeah, we kind of buried the cancer right under the tracks, threatening your groundwater, among other things. And then the EPA begrudgingly came along and ordered Norfolk Southern to dig up that buried cancer-causing toxins and move it. And we will get to the EPA. We will get to the EPA. So Norfolk Southern was already caught right after the act committing a crime, which is burying contaminated soil, which broke all sorts of environmental laws. But here, let's just go down the list. Oxy Vinyls was on scene. So that's the owner of the chemical cars that Norfolk Southern claimed to be so concerned about. Norfolk Southern claimed that they were worried that these cars could just explode at any moment and threaten the lives of surrounding communities. If Oxy Vinyls was on scene, why doesn't the governor of Ohio or the governor of Pennsylvania, because he was involved as well, governor of Pennsylvania, Judge Shapiro, why were they not made aware that the owner of the chemical company, their several members with their team is on scene? Why were they not in the room when the emergency response plan was being made? How do you discuss what you're going to do about toxic chemicals that none of these people were subject matters in without the experts on the toxic chemicals who were there? Why were they not in the room? Who was calling the shots here? Sure sounds like it was Norfolk Southern calling the shots. And Lewis has reported on that Norfolk Southern was calling the shots this whole time. Oxy Vinyls, the owner of the chemicals, told Norfolk Southern, quote, there was no justification to do event and burn. There was another option, the NTSB chair said. Let it cool down. Why was that option not pursued? Well, I don't know. You do the math. And I've spoken with experts about this when it comes to East Palestine. Every day that rail track was shut down, and that is a very, very busy line that goes from west to east. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it is factual that there were weapons that were going out to Ukraine manufactured in, I always pronounce it wrong. Is it Lima or Lima? Is it Lima, Ohio? But there were weapons being manufactured out of Lima, Ohio that were going off to Ukraine. And it went through that train route from the west to the east. For every day that train route was shut down, Norfolk Southern was going to lose minimum $1 million a day. So, as the NTSB chair says, quite common sense, quite logically, there was another option. Let it cool down. Well, I talked to an expert. I won't say who because it was off the record, but I talked to an expert in, gas, chemical explosions and gas explosions. He said to do it the right way, to let it cool down and then slowly extract the chemicals from the train cars, you're probably looking at 5 to 6 days, maybe a week, that route would have to be shut down. Well, it seems that the multi-billion-dollar psychopaths that run Norfolk Southern, because it's a multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerate, didn't want to lose, let's just chalk it up to $10 million. So they said it would be worth it just to nuke the whole fucking town. That's what happened here. They lied about the risk of these cars exploding. There was no risk of any explosion whatsoever. And not only did they lie to the public, I think there's multiple crimes, but you have the NTSB chair saying the governor of Ohio was not told that the owner of the chemical cars were advising against this. The fire chief, who was quote unquote the incident commander, was not told that the chemical car owners were on scene and advising against this. I'm not even going to get into the fire chief because, with all due respect, this is a small town fire chief. He's not calling the shots. I don't really give a shit if they say he was. The governor's calling the shots. The governor is giving his final approval to do this, not the fire chief. That's just how this thing works. Norfolk Southern literally hid from the governor in the final discussions before the vent and burn that, hey, they're sounding the alarms. The owner of the chemical car, don't need to do this. Let it cool down. No risk of controlled explosion. It's not just hid. That is what we call lying. You are withholding life or death information from the governor of the state, who is not an expert in this, so he can't make an informed decision. And therefore, unnecessarily, the governor and the incident commander, the fire chief, signed off on blowing up this small town. And to be clear, obviously ground zero is East Palestine. But I think we're going to see over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, this has mass deadly consequences for Western Pennsylvania, for parts of Ohio, west of East Palestine, and for north and south of East Palestine. This is not just an issue for the residents of East Palestine, Ohio, who Status Coup has been keeping in touch with for the last year. A multi-billion-dollar railroad company basically created a mini Chernobyl for greedy, corrupt reasons, and the mainstream media doesn't give a fuck. So, I don't know. Colin, come on for one more minute. I don't know. I kind of think if you have the NTSB chairwoman saying, yeah, they hid it from the governor, Maybe the governor of the state would have a problem with that. Maybe the governor of the state of Ohio, who has this leave it to Beaver, personality. Maybe he would, I don't know, at the very least, call for criminal investigation into the officials with Norfolk Southern. Say, we need to investigate this more to know who knew what when. We need to criminally investigate why I, the governor who signed off on this, was not given the information. We need to know why wasn't the chemical car companies invited into the room when these decisions were made. We need to know just how much was Norfolk Southern going to be losing per day if the rail line was shut down. We need to have an itemized list. What were they shipping on that line? Were there weapons? I don't know. These are like not brain busters. These are common sense questions that you think a governor who is an actual public servant and cares about his people would want to ask. Do you think the governor called for any of those things?
Well, not only did he not, but you would think that being lied to kind of been under skin, because based on Lewis actually had interviewed the governor at one time, and when Lewis had the audacity to say, like, question the governor further, he gave this very offended, like, how dare you question me? So I would assume that if someone lied to him, that should get under his skin even more, which should be more illuminating of how he.
Well, let's see.
Anything.
Let's see. Let's put up a fancy graphic, because I reached out to various people today I even transcribed it for them if they didn't have the time to watch the hearing. I gave them quotes of what J.D. Vance said and what the NTSB chair said. Colin, let's show all the people we reached out to today. So we reached out to, not this one, the list. Reached out to Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Hey, Attorney General, the NTSB chair says this multi-billion-dollar railroad company unnecessarily nuked a small town. You're going to open up a criminal investigation? We're still waiting to hear back from the Attorney General of Ohio. Reached out to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. Similar questions. Waiting to hear back. Reached out to J.D. Vance. Remember, and we'll show this clip in a minute, R. Lewis confronted J.D. Vance on his last trip to East Palestine, which was last month. Again, this is expensive to keep going back on over and over. We don't have any corporations funding us. We don't have any Koch brothers. We don't have any, Democratic Party donors. No corporate money. Our funding to do these on-the-ground reporting trips comes from you. StatusCoup.com/join. You could support this work for $5 a month. But reached out to J.D. Vance. Hey, you seem pretty pissed off in that hearing. You seem to indicate that they might have intentionally poisoned the people of East Palestine. You're going to call for a criminal investigation? Still waiting to hear back from the great Senator Vance. We'll see. Keep going. We reached out to Senator John Fetterman. Seems to have plenty of time to bow down to Israel. Ask him, hey, Fetterman, you seem to, call out corporations. You're going to call for a criminal investigation? Haven't heard back. Reached out to Sherrod Brown. Did hear back from him. We'll get to that in a minute. Reached out to Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. Haven't heard back. We'll give them a benefit of the doubt. I reached out to most of them late morning, early afternoon, that they'll get back. But let's show you what Ohio Governor DeWine had to say about this through his spokesperson. So I wrote, again, I gave him all the details, gave him the quotes. I get a response from the press secretary that, let's just read it first. NTSB Chair Homendy testified Wednesday that neither Governor DeWine nor the Incident Command were ever presented with a scenario from experts that a controlled vent and release was unnecessary to prevent a catastrophic explosion. They were also not presented any scenario where, if officials did nothing, the train cars would not explode catastrophically. Governor DeWine spent hours with Incident Command and Norfolk Southern contractors on the day of the release and asked numerous questions to understand the facts. No one, not one single expert, opined that day about there being any other scenario occurring besides either a catastrophic explosion or a controlled release to prevent such an explosion. So, Colin, before we show the rest of that, come back to me. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. No one mentioned an alternative because they were left out of the room. Your governor was lied to. There were experts telling you this wasn't necessary, but they were basically locked out of the room where the decisions were being made. That is a crime. Let's show the rest of that. So I said, thanks for the statement. Doesn't answer my question. Given this new information and evidence, will the governor be calling for a criminal investigation into Norfolk Southern? I even soft pedaled it. I didn't even say, will he be calling for criminal charges? Just an investigation. Give us the bare minimum. My bought off corporate Republican friend here. His spokesperson, I do not have additional comments beyond our statement. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Ohio voters, I don't care if you're a liberal. I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care if you're a libertarian. I don't care if you're politically agnostic. No labels, not even into politics. We should all kind of be against being nuked by our government and getting cancer and the rest. Your governor of Ohio, who, according to the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, according to Oxy Vinyls, the owner of the chemical car company, your governor, when he was presented by the multi-billion-dollar railroad company with the information, was lied to. Governor DeWine, if you're watching this, if you care about the people rather than your donors, we'll get to your donors in a minute. You were lied to. You were coerced into making a deadly decision to allow this monstrosity because you weren't even told that the chemical experts were advising against it. Frankly, if you had half a brain, you should have asked who owns the chemicals. Let's get them in the room. Apparently you didn't. Apparently you didn't. You were lied to. And the most you can tell us is, well, I just went with the information I was given. And when I ask you directly, are you going to call for a criminal investigation into the criminal liars that coerced me, the governor, into endangering the people that I represent? You tell us I have nothing more to say. Well, I wonder, why do you have nothing more to say? Colin, show us the money. The article I sent you. Norfolk Southern plied Ohio politicians with campaign cash. Extensive lobbying. This is from local ABC in Ohio. Almost exactly a month before a Norfolk Southern train derailed and spewed hazardous materials in eastern Ohio, the company gave the maximum $10,000 to help bankroll Governor DeWine's inaugural festivities. A 6-on-your-side examination of state records shows this contribution, which is part of 29,000 the Virginia-based corporation has contributed to DeWine's political funds since he first ran for governor in 2018. Well, gee, gosh, jolly Jim. Now, on a presidential level, $29,000 is a drop in the bucket. Who gives a shit? Ohio governor, $29,000. It's a big chunk of coin. I didn't have time before this live stream, but I'm going to venture to guess they've given him more over his political career. And I know for damn sure they've given Ohio Republicans and Ohio Democrats a whole lot of money. And Pennsylvania politicians. I don't know. We got 750 people watching. You think that has anything to do with why his response might as well be a fucking ham sandwich or a vanilla softie? I got nothing to say about the multi-billion-dollar corporate criminals lying me into poisoning my citizens. Well, I got something to say. If you're not going to call for a criminal investigation, then a criminal investigation needs to be looked into you, the governor. And I know as a reporter, you're supposed to stand neutral. You're supposed to be neutral and not, just point out obvious facts. You, the governor, this is not just you performing your normal duties. That's what criminal governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, said. I was just performing my duties, and sometimes we make mistakes. No, there's something called criminal negligence. There's something called reckless endangerment. And if you did not cross your X's and O's, if you did not dot your T's or whatever the hell that statement is, to get all of the experts in the room to find out who are the subject matters here, then maybe some questions need to be asked about you. And if you are not at the very least for your people going to call for criminal, I'm not even calling for charges. I mean, I am, but I'm saying for you, if you're not even going to call for a criminal investigation If you are not going to mandate your attorney general to open a criminal investigation, then you are complicit with the crime. End of story. Now let's go to J.D. Vance. Before this came out, before this hearing, R. Louis DeAngelis, who again, you helped send us there. All the other media covered East Palestine for about a week and moved on. That's what they always do. They're disaster hunters. They'll cover something. Mass shootings, you might get 3 days of coverage, then they move on. If a town is poisoned, you might get a week of coverage, and then they move on. We do something radical here. We actually stay on stories. Most of the time, we lose money doing so, because when we keep going back months later or a year later, YouTube's not recommending these videos. We can't get YouTube to boost it in the algorithm to recommend these videos. They don't care anymore if it has to do with Flint, East Palestine. Kalamazoo, Michigan is also being poisoned. I've been reporting on that for months. But Lewis approached J.D. Vance, the senator, in February, right around the time of the 1-year anniversary of this, and just asked him a simple question. Are you going to call for criminal investigation? Let's take a look.
Do you think anyone should be held as criminally liable for the decision to detonate those cars? A resident I've been speaking with said that they spoke with the former Vice President Al Gore at one point, who thinks that something could be criminal there. But the ultimate decision to detonate the cars seems like it was unnecessary.
Well, the NTSB report is going to come out soon. One thing I'd say, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is it's really important that we not have a federal settlement with Norfolk Southern before the NTSB report. It's like, why would you try to memory hole and prevent discovery on an accident before you even have the accident report?
Right.
Look, we'll see what the NTSB report says. My strong suspicion is there were a lot of mistakes. Whether they're criminal mistakes, I got to see more evidence before I can say that. See you guys.
Thank you.
I got to see more evidence. Well, you just saw the evidence. So now the rubber meets the road, Mr. Populist, Mr. Hillbilly Elegy. Sorry, he's a big fraud on many other things, too. I could smell a fraud a mile away. I don't even know what you were talking about then, by the way. We got to wait for the NTSB report. There was an NTSB hearing in June of 2023. July, August, September, October, November, December, January. That's 8 months ago. A lot of this was revealed then. The owner of the chemical cars revealed this then. We knew that the temperatures of the cars were going down then. So don't give me this bullshit that we need to wait for the official report. No. And by the way, J.D. Vance has taken money from Norfolk Southern too. But you say, I need to see more evidence. What more evidence do you need? The owner of the chemical car was basically criminally locked out of the decision-making. The company lied to the governor and the fire chief. The company, frankly, lied to you, the senators. What more evidence do you need? Where is J.D. Vance, the so-called right-wing populist, calling for criminal charges against a multi-billion-dollar company that criminally nuked the small town of East Palestine? Am I in the Twilight Zone? And I'm not just yelling for effect or to go viral. I'm yelling because I am angry. I've been covering Flint for 8 years. I've been covering this for over a year. I'm sick of people being sickened by the government and corporations and them getting away with it over and over and over. Why don't you just call it the Poison States of America and we could fly at your own fucking risk airlines and everybody could just, know, hey, our government's bought, so hey, hopefully you're not in the wrong place at the wrong time. But if the government poisoned you or the corporations poisoned you, sorry. We'll send you a few tax credits. Maybe we'll change your pipes. Maybe we'll expand your Medicaid or something. But other than that, you're just going to have to die slowly. Sherrod Brown, the supposed progressive senator who's up for re-election, sure, that has nothing to do with this. Sherrod Brown responded with his statement, if you could pull that up. And they just gave me their statement from last week that basically says a whole lot of nothing. Sherrod Brown said, quote, "This is outrageous. This explosion, which devastated so many, was unnecessary. The people of East Palestine are still living with the consequences of this toxic burn. This is more proof that Norfolk Southern put profits over safety and cannot be trusted," said Brown. Let me just correct your statement there. Yeah, it's outrageous. It's also criminal, Senator Brown. It's beyond outrageous. It's criminal. And you're the progressive senator? Where is the even notion that crimes have been committed? They didn't just put profits over safety. They, in my view, if this is a legal term, I don't know, they committed corporate manslaughter. And for those of you that don't know, we're not talking about people with the sniffles. We're talking about people who are already developing cancer in East Palestine. We're talking about people that are peeing blood. I've spoken with them. We're talking about people who still have bloody noses. We're talking about people who they leave the town and feel better, and they come back and they immediately have headaches. They immediately have nausea. Their eyes burn. Not 3 months after, not 6 months after, not a year after, today. We're not just talking about elderly people. We're not just talking about kids. Everybody. And yes, there are people in the town who say, let's move on. But there's a lot of people in the town who want to leave but can't because the government isn't forcing Norfolk Southern to permanently relocate them. And we had this nonsense photo op visit from Biden who said a lot of bullshit, and it was all blocked off. He barely spoke with any residents. He didn't speak with any of the most fierce activists. He was in and out within 2 hours. And they put out a statement, we're holding Norfolk Southern accountable. Oh, yeah? Where is the criminal investigation from the Ohio Attorney General? Where is the calls for a criminal investigation from the Ohio governor? The Pennsylvania governor, to his credit, Josh Shapiro, asked his attorney general last year to open up a criminal investigation. I contacted the attorney general of Pennsylvania today. Same stuff. If you missed it, I told her what was said in this hearing, what information and evidence came out. Haven't heard back. Are we just doing kind of show trials here? Theatrical investigations? I could tell you, because I've covered real criminal investigations, you don't even have to do that much investigation. Most of the evidence is already there. We already have the empirical data that the temperatures of the cars were going down. By the way, there was a lot of strange things happening the night of the derailment where the multi-billion-dollar railroad company was the one calling the shots on the emergency response of the fire rather than the fire chief. Do we have crimes in America? Hey, I'm all for taking Trump down because I do think he's committed crimes. Sorry if you're Trump supporters here and think he's innocent of all crimes known to man. I'm all for going after, Trump. I'm all for, we should have gone after the banks who tanked our economy through fraud 10 years ago or 15 years ago. We should go after the fossil fuel companies who are poisoning our water, land, and animals and illegally lying about their spills. We should go after the Sackler family and all the corporate big pharma criminals poisoning people with OxyContin. We should go after a lot of people. But are the railroad executives off limits? Are the fossil fuckers off limits? Are the big bankers off limits? That's a rhetorical question because we know the answer. Let's not even pretend presidential elections matter if there are no laws for corporate America. Let's not pretend that congressional elections matter. Let's not pretend that Senate elections matter. Let's not even fucking pretend that protesting matters. If there are no laws for corporate America, we don't have a democracy. And I hate to tell you, we don't have a democracy anyway. An electoral college is not a democracy. When the person who wins the most votes doesn't win, that's not a democracy. When you poison people either intentionally or accidentally and you just leave them to slowly die, that's not a democracy. That's a fucking Hunger Games. Colin, let's show some of the clips. I don't know how many we have because I asked you to do it last minute. Let's show you some of the clips of people getting sick.
It was pretty bad. And then I just started getting sicker and sicker. At the beginning, it was nosebleeds and nausea. And then this year in August, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Mm-hmm. I've gone through 2 surgeries in 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, it's been devastating because I was worried about my health after all of this happened, and I want to be here for my grandkids. So naturally, I did all the cancer treatments and everything that I needed to do.
Right.
I don't know if Norfolk Southern had anything to do with it, but I got breast cancer. I lived in that house for 25 years. Now, the research that I did, vinyl chloride, extended exposure to that will expedite the cancer. So, I don't know.
Wayne had surgery in July, had a double mastectomy, went through 4 rounds of chemo. Not out of the woods yet. Still have to go back and do some more testing, make sure that he is clear. But unfortunately, for us, for him, there are many other cancers that he's susceptible to at this point. So, you know, it's a gambit.
Now, I want to be clear. I can't directly do cause and effect. I don't know if his cancer was caused from Norfolk Southern. I don't know if her cancer was caused from Norfolk Southern. What I do know, and you could research it, pretty rare for men to get breast cancer. It's a rare thing. And vinyl chloride exposure, you got breast cancer, you got lung cancer, you got brain cancer, you got leukemia. The woman had no history in her family. You could watch the whole interview on our channel. Had no history of breast cancer. That's just 2 people. I've spoken with people. There are people who have never had a problem with seizures suddenly coming down with seizures in East Palestine. Like I said, there's people whose noses are bleeding. You've had children who are peeing blood. And what has the local government done? They literally had an Easter egg hunt last year in a polluted, contaminated park right near the railroad station, sponsored and paid for by Norfolk Southern, because we got to push out the PR and theatrics that Norfolk Southern's doing the right thing. They're providing Easter eggs for the kids in the park that they nuked. Again, sometimes I just feel like, am I in the Twilight Zone? All this fucking theater and bullshit and media marketing and manipulation. We got to save our democracy. Our democracy's on the line. When is the last time you heard any of these limousine liberals on MSNBC talk about this? When's the last time you heard the worldwide leader in news, CNN, talk about this? And I don't just say talk about it. I mean, investigate it. Do what I'm doing. Because as a journalist, I'm sorry, it doesn't make you a journalist to say, this side says this, that side says this. We're neutral, so you fucking figure it out and slowly die. No. There's something called facts. My job is to tell you who are the criminals, who is lying, and provide the evidence, which I believe I've done. I should have drank before I did this, whoever's talking about that. There was a crime against humanity that was perpetrated here. Let me repeat that. Not only a crime against the laws, we're talking a crime against humanity. And to my friends from East Palestine, I am sorry to say this. I know it's your worst fear, but I have to be honest. And I have talked to Aaron Brockovich about this, and I have talked to chemical experts about this. I have talked to environmental experts about this. The damage is done. Unfortunately, there's probably going to be a huge increase in cancer. Not just in East Palestine, but the surrounding parts. Lewis has done great interviews and reporting. By the way, under playlist, if you're coming to this story brand new, we have a playlist like all our other topics on the playlist section for East Palestine. You could go back and watch all these interviews from the last year and 5 reporting trips that we took. Lewis has interviewed people in Pennsylvania that are sick. It's some parts of Western Pennsylvania got it worse than East Palestine because of the direction of the chemical plume. I've literally talked to a combustion expert on gases who said this is mini Chernobyl. You obviously know about Chernobyl in the Soviet Union. This is a mini Chernobyl in America. And it has been completely swept under the rug. And now, not only is it being swept on the rug, the corporation that we have ding, 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 blinking red light evidence that they basically created a sacrifice zone over flyover country so that they didn't have to lose a couple $1 million. They're getting off scot-free. Sherrod Brown, you're the progressive senator and you're not calling for a criminal investigation into this? Shame on you. And if it takes this show, and by the way, I'm going to do a Substack piece tomorrow. So sign up for our Substack. You could sign up for free. That's statuscoup.substack.com. That's statuscoup.substack.com. Sign up for free. You'll get it in your email inbox. I'm going to do a piece on this tomorrow. I'm going to give you every last number to call. I'm going to give you every last email to call. And I want you to politely, and it doesn't even need to be politely. You should fucking bombard these public servants with phone calls, with emails, with letters. You want to go protest outside their office as long as it's peaceful? Godspeed. Because these people should not be comfortable aiding and abetting and being complicit to a corporate criminal crime. And let me tell you something. If the government officials in Flint and the state of Michigan get away with poisoning Flint, and so far they have, and Norfolk Southern gets away with poisoning East Palestine and Pennsylvania, and they are right now, then it's open season on the rest of us. And it might not be a railroad in your community. It might be a chemical plant. It might be a fracking project. It might be a uranium mine. Who knows? But when that explodes or that derails or that detonates, if they get away with it here, they're getting away with it by you. And don't think that this is something far away from you and this doesn't affect you. It affects all of us. God, I'm fucking angry. You know how many people I talk to? You guys only see like me live or me in videos. I talk to people all day from Flint, from East Palestine, from Kalamazoo. I talk to Native Americans from different parts of the country. It's all I hear about is misery and injustice and corruption, and nothing is being done. We're covering a story. I'm trying to plan a reporting trip now to West Virginia because the coal mine, probably owned by the governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice, who's a corrupt criminal, who, by the way, hasn't paid his taxes in many years, and that is now running for senator. One of his coal mines might have contaminated the water in southern West Virginia, and residents and the state environmental department thought it would be a good idea to take the contaminated water that the coal mine contaminated, dump it out into the creek that runs 4 miles that's right next to residents' wells. And residents are now getting black, brown, white, and orange water and getting sick. Is the media covering that? I don't know. Is it not sexy enough? You know, the number one necessity we all need in life, water. Is that not sexy enough? We will have a lot more on this story. Please, if you can't support us financially, and I've given you how to support us financially, it's statuscoup.com/join. You could sign up for as low as $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. And when you sign up, you're not just signing up, like it's not enriching me. Trust me, I ain't rich. What you're doing is you're giving us $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. So we could continue going to these places. I'm going back to Flint. My next trip to Flint is going to be my 20th reporting trip to Flint since 2016. If we could send Lewis back or me to East Palestine, that would be our 6th or 7th trip. Going to West Virginia, all this costs money to send me, a cameraman, flights, hotels, rent a car, food. All of this costs thousands of dollars a pop. Plus, paying me, paying Colin, paying other people. If you can support us financially, please sign up. You get to join us on our monthly members calls. We do a monthly members call through, not Zoom anymore, but something like Zoom. If you can't support us financially, that's okay. You can share these streams. You can create your own you can create your own social media posts. We're going to be clipping this stream and cutting parts of it into shorter pieces because not everyone has time to watch a whole podcast, watch a whole show for an hour or whatever, however long I've been on. So you can share this. You can push this to other people. This has got to be word of mouth. There's way too much shit on the internet. There's way too much content that really doesn't matter about a lot of artificial, substanceless bullshit. And way too much of that, frankly, in independent media. This is what matters. This is life or death. This is about people's lives. This is about their families. This is about their health. This is about, do we live in a country that is going to create sacrifice zones, or do we not? Do we live in a country that is going to poison its citizens and then cover it up and leave them slowly die? Do we live in a society and a country where government officials who are public servants stuff your email box with emails about saving democracy and give me money, but they won't even call for a fucking criminal investigation when you have a railroad company dead to rights that poisoned us? Good God. I don't call it the United Corporations of America for fun. Thank you very much. SOS Mart Stupid or Stupid. Sa Stupid. I don't know how to pronounce that. Gifted 1 membership. Let me read some super chats. Nadia joined as a Status Coup member. Thank you so much, Nadia. Mike, the Lumpen Lodge, $2. Mike Destin needs to face the, I don't know what that emoji is, but I agree. Mika, $20. Thank you for your important work. Environmental issues are incredibly important and almost totally ignored by the corporate media. I agree with you, Mika, but I will say something. This is not just an environmental issue. This is a human rights issue, which I'm sure you agree with. This is not just about the environment. This is about human rights. You have a right, whether you're a citizen, undocumented, I don't care. You have a right, if you live, if you pay your taxes, if you contribute to society, you have a right not to be sacrificed by your government or corporate America. So this goes beyond the environment. This is about poverty. This is about class. They would have not detonated the neighborhood over the neighborhood that Governor DeWine lives in, or former Governor John Kasich lives in, or J.D. Vance, whatever mansion he lives in. Trust me, they would have not. They detonated over a poor, mostly white area, just like they would do it over a poor black, poor brown, or indigenous area. Thank you for the support. The Lumpen Lodge, $5. East E. Osborne here. Step into the Lodge of the Lumpen. Thank you. Dave, $10. Buttigieg did a little interview segment on NPR about East Palestine about a week ago. The transportation secretary is on top of things, folks. It was nauseating. Oh, he's clearly on top of things. Like I said, thank you, SOS, for the 1 gifted membership. Thank you so much, Moral Compass, for the 1 gifted membership. By the way, what that means, if you're already a member, want to basically purchase a membership for somebody else, Colin, can you tell people how to do that?
On YouTube here, it's you just go down at the bottom where you can do super chats and stuff, and I believe that's where you can do a gifted membership. And if you're a regular user, make sure at the top of the chat there's usually, YouTube's weird, so if it's different, not my fault. There's usually a button to add or allow yourself to be gifted a membership. And then you can also go to, if you go to StatusCoup.com, there's an option under the member section to gift memberships there as well. And
on YouTube, I think it's random. You'll just kind of get an alert that you've been gifted a membership.
It's random, or you can direct it. It's either or. When you're making it, it'll ask you.
And by the way, Colin, come back. This is so outrageous. Colin's cats are fucking pissed off, and they've been yelling this whole session. Am I right?
Yeah, and the dog. They're all very upset.
They're all very upset. He's got a whole zoo down there. So we're not getting up. We're not leaving up. I can't work wonders. I can't give government officials a spine, but I can breathe fire over them, and that's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, you're going to get, if you are a member of our Substack, and again, you could sign up to our Substack for free. That's statuscoup.substack.com. I do not send fundraising emails every day. I do not bombard you with requests asking for money. I mean, we do ask for money, but it's not 25 times a day like some other outlets. But if you sign up to our Substack, you will get email tomorrow. It will have this story condensed with all the numbers, all the emails you need to call. Maybe we could pressure them to do the right thing. I'm not holding my breath because we live in the United Corporations of America and our government has been bought. But until the media starts screaming at the top of their lungs about this shit, nothing's going to change. Until we all do more than just protest. We need to start talking economic boycotts here, which I've been talking about for a long time, because protests aren't working on a variety of issues. There's a reason that the unions are doing very well right now, because they're using their economic leverage of strikes. We need to start considering as a society, not just protesting with boots on the ground, but protesting with our wallet. That's a different story for a different day. But you will have all the information in your email tomorrow. Sign up, statuscoup.substack.com. Thank you to everyone who signed up today as a paid member, because you are how we stay on these stories, and you are how we deliver whatever small iota of justice we can deliver. And by the way, if you came to this late, I'm going back to Flint this weekend to shoot a mini documentary for the 10-year anniversary of the ongoing water crisis. Let me repeat, the ongoing Flint water crisis that is still ongoing 10 years later, because they still have contaminated water in Flint. Not one government official has even seen a jury trial, much less gone to prison. You have a corrupt attorney general in Michigan who sabotaged the investigation, and I could go on for another hour just about Flint. We don't parachute in and out of places. We stay for a while. I have a book coming out about the Flint water cover-up. It will be my first book. It'll be out in August. The link to pre-order that is right down in the description. It's called We the Poisoned: Exposing the Flint Water Crisis Cover-Up and the Poisoning of 100,000 of Americans. And while I'm at it, we might need to do another book just on East Palestine, because this is on par with Flint, if you ask me. Thank you so much. Christina, $49.99 super chat. Thank you for all your hard work, Jordan. He might not be on screen today, but let's not forget Lewis was the one who went 5 times. I have reported in the background on East Palestine, but Lewis has done great work too. Thank you for watching. I got to go watch my daughter, who is 16 months old today. We are not giving up on this. Please, please, I ask you, share this live stream. Post it on your social media. Make sure you're following Status Coup on Twitter or X or whatever it is, at Status Coup, because we're going to be posting shorter clips from this. Maybe people will pay attention if they see me going nuclear. Who knows? Thank you for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow.